Hi, welcome to Rick's Corner. I want to get off the subject of bodybuilding today, and I want to talk about pro wrestling, because many people write in and they say, you don't ever talk about wrestling, you had a whole career in it and you mentioned very little about it. It's not that I don't want to. It's changed so much over the years that my interest isn't what it used to be, like anything else in life. But bodybuilding, of course, has always been number one to me. But without bodybuilding, I would have never been a wrestler. And so many bodybuilders come to me and ask me, well, I'm training hard, I'm in good shape, what does it take to get into pro wrestling? I get a lot of these emails from people all over the United States, all over the world. And I get it from young kids, 12 years old, who, you know, think they want to be a wrestler because they watch it on TV. And I get it from guys in their 50s who are way too old for it. And I get it from people who don't look in the mirror and see that they're not in shape to even become that. I don't know what they see in the mirror, but it's not what you see on TV. Well, let's start back a little bit, because wrestling has changed so much over the years. It's not even the same thing it was 10 years ago, or 20 years ago, or 30 years ago. I started in the mid-60s, 1965. I was working out in Bakersfield at the YMCA in bodybuilding and powerlifting. My dad used to take me to wrestling shows on Thursday night at the Sterling Stadium in the picture. It's theater, it's a round theater, like a theater in the round. A dome building built for boxing and wrestling by a man named Steve Strelich way back in the 30s, when Gorgeous George, Strangler Lewis, and all the old timers used to wrestle there. They brought it to Bakersfield and it became very popular. My dad, being a downtown businessman, got free passes on Thursday night, and he called me up, hey son, you want to go to wrestling tonight? I said, yeah, sure. I was maybe 8, 9 years old, 10, then up to about 12. And so we'd go, and it was the father and son night out. And we had a great time. We'd always end up at Stan's Drive-In afterwards, have a burger and a shake, and then go home, and then he'd start hitting me with forearms and try to put a headlock on me. I had no clue that I would ever go into wrestling. It was not my thing, and I enjoyed being entertained. And back in those days, the guys that came in were big men, older men, and punches were used sparingly. They weren't like they are today. Everything looked really real, and when you'd hit somebody and you see spit flap in there, you thought it was a tooth, and you see blood and say, oh my God, they're killing each other. I didn't know if it was real. I didn't know if it wasn't real. I couldn't tell, but as a kid, to me, it looked real. It was so believable in a small arena with big, strong men beating the hell out of each other that everybody believed it. You didn't have internet, and you just didn't have the gossip that they do today, talking about the matches before they even appear on WWE. So nobody knew what the finish was going to be. Nobody knew what was going on. They just knew a guy came to town, was a wrestler, and he's going to kick ass. The only thing you had were magazines. And the wrestling magazines would show different guys in different areas of United States wrestling, and they'd come to your area for a couple of weeks, and then they'd go to somewhere else for a couple of weeks. Then they would have the midgets, and the midgets were very entertaining. They'd do a 6-man tag or a 4-man tag, and they were all over the place and ring all around. They'd sell the house out. They'd be there for 2 shows, and then they'd go back somewhere else. Then they brought in the women. Now, the women didn't look like the women of the day. They weren't divas. They were like your 5th grade school teacher or your next door mom. And it was kind of funny to watch 2 women in the ring pulling hair and beating each other up, because it was out of character, and you just didn't know what was going on. One of the ladies was Mae Young, who died just this past couple of years at the age of 87, still at WWE. And I'll get to her in a moment. So the story is that my dad would take me, and then I went through that phase, and I didn't think much about it. 1963, my father passed away. I got out of the Army. I started working out at the YMCA again, and entered a few bodybuilding contests, Mr. Central California, some of those things, and I won. And I thought, I'm in a band, I'm playing guitar, and this is probably what I'm going to do. However, on a Thursday night, they still had the matches at the stadium every Thursday night. The wrestlers would come to the YMCA, and they'd work out. And I had 2 or 3 of them, and I recognized them. We started talking about one thing or another, and I said, you know, I never really thought much about it, but with the body that I have now and the look that I have, maybe I'd like to go into wrestling. I don't know, but I might like to give it a try, but how do I even begin to become one? What do I do with myself? So they said there was no schools, like today's world, but there are certain guys who will take you under their wing, and they'll train you privately and bring you into the business, because that's the only way you can get in. So I said, well, who would that be? And one of them mentioned Mae Young, one of the moms that, or look-alike moms that I saw in the ring. She's in Los Angeles at the Olympic Auditorium. You got to go down and see her, and maybe she'll work out with you, maybe she won't, but she'll take a look at you. So I put my mom in the car since she was alone. I said, Mom, you got to take a ride with me down to Los Angeles. I wanted to look into being a wrestler. She looked at me like I was nuts. Why would you want to do a thing like that? I said, I need to branch out in this world and do something with my life other than work out, go to the gym, play in a band in a small town where there's no future for me. I have a passion. I have a dream to become famous, become an entertainer, and I want to give it a try. So I put her in the car. We took a ride to down to Los Angeles, went to the Olympic Auditorium, went upstairs. I had set up an appointment, knocked on the door. Mae Young let me in, and she was very nice in her workout gear and her boots, and she had a small makeshift ring, about 10 by 10, with a hardwood floor and a mat on top of it. Not particularly right for wrestling, but it's a place to do a few things. She was already training a couple of girls, and she looked at me and she says, well, you're a good-looking guy. Take your shirt off. Let me see you. So I did, and she was like, oh my God, I didn't know you were like that. Boy, you could make some money in this business, and I would manage you and make some money along with you. Let's get in the ring, let's do a few things. She showed me a lockup, she showed me a headlock, showed me wrist locks, and then she slammed me a couple of times. I got some mat burns and knocked me around and beat me up. My mom was out in the arena of 14,000 vacant seats, big doors with pigeons flying in, shitting all over the place. And she hears me getting bounced around in there, and I can't imagine what she was thinking. She was reading a book. After about 45 minutes, I walked out, and Mae Young says, look, let's start this. I will train you for like $25 a workout, $125 a week, which is a lot of money back in the 60s, trust me. But I was playing in a band, I was making money, and I had a job at a gym. So I said, okay. I said, I'll do it. Get out, I get in the car with my mom. I said, okay, let's go eat something, go home. I have to come back tomorrow. And she said, why? I said, I'm going to begin my training here. She said, you really going to do this? I said, yeah. So I took her home, and the next day I think I had to be there like at 10 a.m., a couple of hours, and then I drove home and I worked out at the gym. Now this was a 2-hour trip either way. So, you know, you got to drive, and it's tiring through the mountains. And I committed myself to it, and this is what you have to do to become a wrestler today. You have to commit yourself, and you have to pay for training, which I did. And I have the original receipts, which I'm going to show on here with the dates signed by her. These are collector's items. I did this for 6 months, and every day, 5 days a week. Unless she was out of town, then I'd skip a day, but I'd go back. And she taught me how to wrestle American style, Japanese style, Mexican style, and shoot style. Shoot styling meaning real wrestling where you could take somebody down and really hurt them. She says you need to know how to defend yourself in the ring against some guys who are jerks, and they want to stiff you, punch you hard, or work you hard. You need to know how to fight back. So I did. I had seen previously a wrestler by the name of Buddy Killer Austin, big man, blonde hair, usually kind of a little bit drunk when he got in the ring, but a lot of the older guys were like that. Rough guy, hit hard, bumped hard, but really a good showman. And he would work with Pedro Morales, and they'd have dynamite matches. And I looked at this guy and I said, I don't ever want to work with this guy. He's going to kill me. Thank God I don't even know him. Well, I'm in the arena and working out with her, and she says, now I want you to meet Mr. Moto, the promoter, and another wrestler, Buddy Killer Austin, who you're going to have your first match with. And I went, gulp, really? She says, yes, you're on Channel 5 Wednesday night with him. So he comes in, and it's really funny because I'm sharing this with you guys. Back in those days, wrestlers wore Hawaiian shirts, khaki pants, and flip-flops. It's almost like a bowler's league. So they all come in and look at me, and they're giving me the eyeball and talking among themselves, and I'm so conspicuous, you know, I'm wondering, what are they talking about? What are they thinking? Buddy gets in the ring, he says, okay, I'm going to lock up with you. And he locks up with me, which is a referee's hold, and he hit me so hard behind the head, I saw stars. I thought, I don't know if I want to do this. And he said, yeah, lock up hard, and then we get loose. And he showed me a couple of things to do. And he says, we're going to work Wednesday night. We're going to go about 2 minutes. I'm going to beat you because you're new in the game. You got to pay your dues. You're not going to win for the first year. So, okay. So Wednesday night, match comes, 7:30, 8 o'clock. The Olympic Auditorium was a huge building. It's still alive today, and it still has all kinds of things going on. You make that long walk from the dressing room down to the arena, down inside the auditorium, and it's a long walk. You get into the ring, and you stand there and you wait. The announcer comes out, got a timekeeper, got a doctor ringside, and the crowd's all cheering because I'm a new guy and I'm the baby face. Here comes Austin down from the dressing room, and he's giving dirty looks to everybody with his limp and his walk. And I think, oh my God, this is going to be a nightmare. He gets into the ring, takes his jacket off, just keeps staring me down, locks up with me, pretty good. We did a couple of moves, and he told me, he says, you can give me a punch, I'll sell it. So I gave him one in the nose, and he sold it and took a bump. And then came to the finish, and he says, I'm going to give you a pile driver, which is now illegal because you can break your neck with it. And he gave me one, and he covered me 1, 2, 3, and he won. I went back to the dressing room, and he told me I did a good job. He says, you'll learn as you go, and we'll all work with you. And I went back to Bakersfield that night. Next day I went down to the TV station where my friend worked, and he says, I taped it on a 2-inch reel, that's what they used back then, black and white, come on, let's watch you. And I watched it, and I was so excited to see myself on TV wrestling. I said, this is like nothing I've ever seen, you know? That only inspired me more, as I'm sure you guys would if you were doing something like this. But the thing about wrestling back then is, number one, the promoters were licensed through the State Athletic Commission like a boxer. You had to have a promoter's license. You had to go through all the channels of paying the fines and the dues and the deposits and the bonds and all that in order to run wrestling as a promoter. Legit deal. There's no ifs, ands, or buts like today where they set up a ring in a school and run a show without permits. Every wrestler back then had to have a wrestling license. I still have mine. And I saved them through the years. I had to have one in every state. That means you got to go have a physical, blood test, vision test, everything it takes to pass a physical in order to get your license sent to you for $25, and then you have your license and you're ready to wrestle. Upon wrestling that night, you have to show it like a driver's license, and they check you off that you've been qualified, and then you have your show. Today there's nothing like that. There is no wrestling license, there is no promoter's license. It's an open field. Who anybody wants to put on a pair of tights or nowadays jeans and a t-shirt, and they can go wrestle for somebody, not even being trained. And this is why the indie market doesn't do well and draws 10 or 20 people, because the quality of the wrestlers they get aren't the quality they should be. They don't know how to work, how to get in the ring, what to do. Well, those years were fun. It's like bodybuilding back then down in Gold's Venice. They'll never be duplicated. The atmosphere, the ambiance of the building, the smell in the air of the locker rooms, of the auditorium. I'm sure you guys can identify this. If you go back to your old school that you went to in high school or elementary, you'll smell the walls and you'll desk, and they say, oh my God, that brings back so many memories of my childhood. Or maybe a honeysuckle bush. Well, I took my son down there and I took him to the locker room. I was doing a West cigarette ad at the Olympic Auditorium, and I showed him where we wrestled. I said, you can almost hear the people talking. So you worked with people from the past that are not alive anymore, and they were legends through the 40s and 50s and the 60s, and I learned a lot from them. The experience was something that I could never get anywhere else, and I carried it on for many, many years after, wrestling up till about 2001 when I tore both quads. And that's when wrestling had changed, and it changed in the 80s, obviously. In the 70s, it changed a little bit more in the 80s and 90s, and WWE became popular as WWF. I worked for them for a while, and then it changed again when Vince McMahon took over from his dad, and he made it this big organization, which is marketing today. And of course, they are a solid organization. They're not a fly-by-night, as we all know. But it drowned out all the little indie promotions, because working back at the Olympic, they would have TV on Channel 5 on Wednesday, Channel 13 on Saturday, and they would promote the towns around Los Angeles, Bakersfield, El Monte, San Diego, all these little towns. So your promotions would go towards those towns, and when you'd show up, they knew you were coming, and everybody'd come out and buy tickets. You'd get, you know, like 1,000 people, 2,000 people. But we were the only wrestlers around. There was no WWE. So when that took over on Saturday Night Live, and it took over nationally, these local things went out of business because they couldn't get Hulk Hogan, they couldn't get big names, they couldn't afford them, and they started losing money. And today wrestling is not what it used to be. Only with WWE, it's not even that anymore. It's all divas, and it's all not prearranged, but written by Hollywood writers, script writers, not the wrestlers themselves. And they have the format of what you're going to do, what you're not going to do. Back in the day, we called the match when we got in the ring. We didn't rehearse. We didn't plan it out. We went by what the feel of the audience, like a magician or a comedian. If a comedian's losing the audience, he'll change his lines mainstream, and he'll have different jokes. But this is how wrestling had changed over the years. Now it's all set like a movie set, and it's not what it used to be. And most of the guys, if they don't know what to do or they don't plan it out in the ring, and they get in there, they don't know how to call it. If the top rope breaks, they don't know what to do, because they use the ropes. Back then, we knew how to wrestle. If the rope broke, you wrestled. You used holds. So anyway, I wanted to just say this. I think it's fascinating to see where things have gotten. I get a lot of people that call me to want to be wrestlers, and I tell them, you know what, don't do it. I shouldn't say that because I chased my passion. I was told not to do it, but it was a different world back then, and I was lucky to get in. It's the same thing with actors today. People want to be actors. Yes, I get that. I know you want to be famous. You want to be on screen. It's extremely difficult. I was able to do it back then because I was seen on TV wrestling. The community was different. The entertainment business was different, and it just worked. But today's world's very hard. But I'm not saying don't go if you have your passion. Now, I've had big guys train with me, big guys, 300 pounds, 6'5", well built. They go to work with WWE, they train them for a while, and they cut them loose, and they don't know what to do with their lives. Unfortunately, I don't know why. They have the look, they have the ability, but they just don't make it. So this is how it is. My take on the business, and I know that Steve Austin and a lot of the guys that are around today see it as I do because they've been there, they've done that, and they know it's a different world. But I wanted to share it with you. So if you have any aspirations of becoming a wrestler and you're a bodybuilder or weightlifter, I don't say not to do it, but find someone good who's old school that can train you, that can open a door and get you in. Just don't go to any indie show and do a few things and mess them up, because your first impression is your last impression. And if you don't know what you're doing, people are going to see it, and it's going to stink out of the auditorium, and that'll be the end of it. All right, that's it. I just wanted to share this. I had a moment today, and I find it interesting. The history of the whole thing is interesting. It's like the history of the bodybuilding with Stay Hungry and Pumping Iron and all that. It's kind of parallels itself because I was involved in both. And I just, I'm big on memories and things that had happened in this world. I've lost a lot of friends in the past few years who passed away, who were a big part of my life, a big part of wrestling, a big part of bodybuilding. And they're not here to tell the story, but I still am. And I'm sharing it with all of you because you're good fans and you're loyal, and I love you. And I'll see you next time.
It's RickDrasin.com. He is the equalizer, baby. See you next time.